Now here's another tool that I use to learn like a surgeon. I use an app called Masterclass. These are a series of different classes by experts in their fields. And recently I watched a lecture with General Stanley McChrystal with the title Battlefield Tactics for Business Success. Now, masterclasses, they have oftentimes step-by-step action plans that you can implement on your life or your ventures, but oftentimes they're more thought-provoking. And I thought this lecture was particularly thought-provoking and resonated with me quite a bit. It's 82 minutes and 16 seconds, which is very manageable to do. The first idea that really resonated with me was the idea that rage leads to overreaction or inaction. And I would put in there fear as well. So it's the response of fight or flight that we all have. And when we have certain emotions, those responses are activated. And it leads you to oftentimes either do nothing or to overreact. So part of growing and leading is really knowing yourself. If you're just using this for self-improvement, or if you're in a leadership position, you got to know the organization. You got to know what you're dealing with, and being honest with yourself as a person or as an entity. And in order to be honest with yourself, you need what General McChrystal calls radical transparency. Essentially, you need to share information with other people or yourself, especially if you're looking to make changes. And in order to be in alignment with yourself, with what you want, you also need to understand that these goals sometimes will change throughout a person's life. And it requires constant reassessment. And he talks about communication, but again, if you're doing that to yourself, it's really being honest with yourself. What you need, what you want, what would you like to get out of whatever experience you are dealing with. Now, he'll go into a lot of specifics on step-by-step action plans that you can use to implement in leadership on your organizations, which is really not the point of this post, but they're interesting nonetheless. Embedded in those step-by-step things, he talks about threats and how to detect, assess, deal with them, and learn from them. And this can be applied to a person's life as well. You're going to be faced with certain situations that you might need to have this sort of stepwise approach to certain problems. He also talks about bias and how you should be aware that we all have biases and we do need to combat them. And oftentimes we do that with being sort of the devil's advocate to an idea, or recruit people that can be the devil's advocate for the idea or for an action that you might want to take. Attached to that is the idea of diversity of thought and perspective. So that's why sometimes you really truly need someone who you can run an idea by, or if you need to take a certain action, you can discuss with them. So you make sure that you are not falling victim to those biases. But sometimes inaction might actually be the greatest risk. Now, the part that I really liked was the last third to a quarter of the lecture, that he talks a lot about character, integrity, and values. He talks about the concept of character is an equation between conviction and discipline. And the discipline means essentially hard work. Your conviction, your integrity, and your values come from essentially knowing yourself. And you have to be honest with yourself and find out what those are to each one of you. And you should try to avoid and push back on people or circumstances that will compromise your values. This is easier when you're not dealing with some kind of crisis, but the most important times to stick to your convictions and values are when you are under pressure or in a crisis. You need to know that some things are wrong no matter where they fall. And not everyone will agree with you or have the same ethical lines as you do. Finally, I really identified with his pain when he had to resign, because I recently had to resign from my position as well. Obviously, it was completely different circumstances, but he did suffer with an identity crisis, and I do resonate with that. However, he finishes with a message of hope. Endings are really just an opportunity to start something new, to go in a different direction, and to explore something that you really haven't had the chance or the time to do before. So, look back on what you've done, be proud of it, and be excited about a new chapter, if that's the case for you. I hope this message also resonates with you, give you courage to take action, give you clarity to set up your own ethical and moral lines, have conviction on your values and purpose, and look forward to new chapters and new adventures. If you have the app, I strongly recommend this lecture, and we'll see you next time.